Well, hi everybody. Night Crusader here, also known, of course, here on YouTube as Vincent Riley. I have been away for a number of weeks. It has been quite a trip. Um, I've been all over the country, and I mean all over the country. I've been from Washington State, right up on the Canadian border, all the way down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And that's pretty much about as far as you can go across this country, I think. Driving an International ProStar, and it has been a wild ride. First of all, I want to preface this by saying thanks to everybody for your comments on the YouTube channel. I appreciate it. I'm really glad that people are getting something out of my video. And I also want to say this. I've had to delete some comments. Phoenix watches this channel. And while I don't say anything bad about the company, because I have nothing but good things to say about them, there are people that have left disparaging comments. I won't tolerate this. I will admit that no matter what company you work for, some people have a less than stellar experience. But I won't have ugly, rude, vile comments on my channel. It's fine if you have an opposing opinion, but if you're going to word it and drag my employer through the dirt with the absolute most vulgar use of language you can, I'm going to delete it. The fact of the matter is if you go via word of mouth, you talk to people that work for this company, you talk to a good slice of the trucking population that actually work for Knight Transportation, you will hear nothing but good things about the way that they treat their employees. That being said, they're putting food on my table, they're feeding my family, and they're giving me solid employment. In an economy that solid employment is diminishing. I mean, you read every day about how retail companies are just cutting out full-time employees and cutting people down to 25 to 30 hours so they don't have to pay benefits on the new Affordable Health Care Act. And this is one company that is not doing that. They have a full medical plan. They're not cutting down hours. They need the manpower. Things need to get shipped. Look, you don't get your iPad. You don't get your steak. You don't get your sugar. You don't even get your vegetables without a company like Knight Transportation. And so the hours are there. And I suggest that, if you're thinking about driving a truck and you don't have the money to put forward, you don't have just, $4,000 to $8,000 to spend on a trucking school, then this is where you should be looking. And, that being said, as far as rating companies go, I'm not going to name the competition, but I am going to say that when I did my reviews, a trucker that was doing this for 30 years rated these schools on an individual basis. And Knight Transportation was at the top of the list. If you don't have a CDL, and you don't have the money to just drop on going to CDL school, this is a great opportunity. And so I just want to point that out. So that being said, let me get right into the meat and potatoes of this. What has happened over the last few weeks? I wasn't able to blog from the road. And so it was crazy. The first things first, I finished range school. I did all my maneuvers perfect. With the exception, I'm a little shoddy on a parallel park. And so the range instructor sent me out on the road with an over-the-road trainer. I went out over the road with a guy named Michael. And this is what he does. He trains, people that have been through the range already and whatnot. And basically, any trainer worth his grit is going to do what this guy did. And that is, you're going to get put behind the wheel, and you're going to drive out of the terminal yourself. And I won't lie to you, that first week is going to be an experience and a half. First of all, even if you know how to drive a standard, this is different. The industry, the Department of Transportation, when you test, they want you to double clutch. A side note, nobody double clutches. And I mean nobody. Now, the industry is about to change again, and they're looking into ways to do like a 5-speed manual transmission, kind of like a shift-on-the-fly thing like you have in a car. But right now, they range from 8 to 10 gears. And there's a switch on the shifter that switches between gears 4 and 5. This will be the first challenge you hit, and it is, it's not easy. But you will be doing this so often that it becomes, over the course of time, automatic. The hardest part of it is it's really easier to float the gears. Floating the gears means you're not using the clutch at all. You're doing it through the timing of the RPMs in the engine and whatnot. This is just double clutch, shift, and then when you downshift, you double clutch, and plus you have to give the engine a little gas to get the RPMs up so that it'll actually go into the gear. They won't just go into gear like on a car. It has to be at the right timing and everything. So that was my first challenge, was doing that. And the second challenge is you're going to learn how to back in a real-world situation. Anybody that's been on a range and has done backing between traffic cones will tell you, once you get in the real world, you start all over again. It's a whole new learning curve. And backing between two full-size trucks versus backing between two traffic cones is an entirely different thing. First of all, if you run over a traffic cone, nobody comes out and beats your face in. Nobody threatens you. But in the real world, you've got to back between two 18-wheelers, and you've literally got, like, what, a foot and a half of space on either side if you're doing it right. And a foot sounds like a lot. I mean, it's like, wow, it's a foot. But when you're dealing with a 53-foot truck and trailer, a foot is nothing. Now, you do get to a point where you watch these guys; they can just fly it right in on the first try. And here's a couple things. When you're in range school, a lot of the DOT, state to state, they want to see you be able to do certain maneuvers. Your most common maneuvers out on the field are what they call a 45 degree back and a 90 degree back. Or, sorry, not a 90 degree back. A 45 degree back and a straight back. The 90 degree back is actually what DOT wants to see you do in most states, along with a parallel park, an offset, and a straight line. The state I'm in, which is Indiana, they want to see you do a straight line back, an offset, and a parallel park, no 90 degree. Some states, there's only 2 that I know of, actually require you to do something called a serpentine maneuver, which, going forward, you might use in the real world, snaking in and out of different situations. But you're never going to be backing up doing that, which is why most states don't do that. So you're going to go out on the road. You're going to learn how to do everything from the ground up with a trainer. And it's going to be the pressure cooker. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be all fun and games. You think of driving over the road and cruising on the highway set at 63.5 miles an hour, because that's what night trucks are governed at for safety reasons. And, just get from point A to point B. But the parts they don't tell you about are pulling into a truck stop, having to do a straight line back or a 45 degree back in a truck stop that doesn't have just the pull through, set up. They don't tell you about, those places like, I'm trying to think, Kraft Cheese, where there's 14 million other trucks all coming and going. And Kraft Cheese, God bless him, hasn't really given you a ton of space. So you're going to have to do a 90 degree back with little maneuvering ability. This is what the real world is like, guys. And the other thing, once you take this job, you are the most hated person on the road. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Without you, the world stops, okay? People don't get their Twinkies, like I said. They don't get their fruits, their vegetables, their iPads, their telephones, their TVs, all of the luxury items they've come to enjoy. They don't realize that the very industry they hate is responsible for getting those things to places where they can consume them. And so it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You're hated, but you're necessary. The reason you're hated, I've witnessed this. People driving cars don't want to get stuck behind an 18-wheeler, ever. And they will do anything in their power, including risk their own life and death, which, by the way, that's your responsibility, to make sure that you don't kill them, even though they're being completely stupid, to stay away from you. And so your job, and you're going to learn how to do things like use the Smith system, which is basically knowing your surroundings at a 360-degree spin as closely as possible. Who's behind you? Who's in front of you? Different hazards in the road? Is the nitwit in the right lane going to try to pass you in your blind spot? All of these different things, they're your responsibility. You're going to learn all this over the road. You're going to be tired because you're going, but you do adjust. And eventually it becomes like anything else. You just do it, and it's second nature. So I'm going to do another video log in a few minutes. I'm going to show you some of the equipment I'm going to be putting in my truck, because I had to consider some different things, so stay tuned.